Thank you, everyone, for joining today. And the special thanks to our speaker. When I when I said I'm going to start something like this, momentum with Meenakshi, and momentum is something that helps us uh, ag- gain, not only success in life. In fact, momentum is what makes every activity a habit in our life. So I thought, why can't we keep it as momentum with Meenakshi? And I've been thinking about doing this for quite some time. So, and the first speaker for the first invitee is Mr. Sri Ram Kumar. I've known him for almost 7, 8 years now, and I've been
Yeah.
following him very closely in LinkedIn. And he's a wonderful writer. Actually, you should follow him in LinkedIn and read through his posts. That it's very eye-opening, very insightful kind of post. So Sriram Kumar is a seasoned professional with over 3 decades of experience across banking, IT, consulting, entrepreneurship, marketing, alliances, and leadership development. So it's actually a wide spectrum that he has covered through his career. He currently leads marketing, alliances, and HR at Finalizer, where he works at the intersection of finance transformation, enterprise technology, and partner ecosystems. His work combines business strategy, storytelling, relationship building, and deep engagement with CFO communities. A regular writer and speaker, Sriram explores themes around digital transformation, leadership, trust, human behavior, and organizational change. He brings practical, reflective, and people centric lens to every conversation with a strong bias for clarity, relevance, and impact. I'll just add one more. Sriram has been is actually a very kind human. Anytime you need anything and you write to him, you will get response immediately. Just to add to the introduction. Thank you, sir, for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Meenakshi. It's wonderful to see you starting this platform, right? And knowing you, I'm sure you are going to put 103% into it, right? So all the very best to you, and it's a pleasure interacting with you on this first episode.
Thank you, sir. And I just want to ask one question before we go into our discussion. You said 103 percentage.
Yeah,
What is that
103%.
3 percentage?
The 3% is that a little more than the extra that one needs to do, right? So, because there is something you need to do, there is always that little bit you need to do. And then there is something more than that you need to do to, for lack of better words, keep the momentum going,
Yeah,
right?
I understand. But why 3 percentage? Why not 5 percentage or 10 percentage?
I don't know. I mean, 3%, you get to 3%, I believe that itself will set the momentum going forward.
In fact, that's a very key point in storytelling, actually. When you have something unique like that, that's what is going to catch everyone's mind. In fact, the 3% is actually unique, and immediately it caught the attention. If it is 110 percentage, probably I will not ask the question. So that shows that you're an experienced storyteller, and you uses all the techniques, in the right, we'll say, in the right portion. I'll start with probably just to understand from your childhood, from your school days. Let us get some ideas about your school days and your college days and how actually it helped you and shaped you.
So, if I have to look back, Meenakshi, I mean, school, college, and all is now eons ago, and obviously those were different time. Society was different. Resources were different. Availability of resources was, at a different scale, etc. But if I reflect back, it was a typical traditional childhood that any child would have in India. There was nothing spectacular. Right? There was very high emphasis on academic success, right? And probably I was lucky that while there was heavy focus on that, there wasn't pressure. So I could sort of, focus my energies on academics. And to be honest, I was not one of those exceptionally brilliant ones, etc. Right? I never was that. I never was a topper, etc. etc. Few things that my parents instilled me in was, of course, one needs to be focused on what one needs to do. A very great emphasis was laid on reading, writing, speaking, what is typically called as the ancillary skills. These were something that were, reiterated time and again. Opportunities were created. Never did my parents say no if I had to buy any book, right? And so these
Interesting.
things kind of instilled that, urge to know, urge to learn. And then beyond a point, once you start going out into the world, you realize, okay, these are, good foundational things to nurture and build on and exploit. So that's how I would reflect on this. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's as mundane and as simple as it can be. But it has been a strong foundation.
No, yeah, that's interesting because two things I noticed. One is there is no pressure. That's actually a great thing. In fact, yeah, I can relate to it because my parents also never put any pressure on me on doing anything. Second, the foundation for writing and reading. That's very apt because it has taken you to who you are today. The way you write, the way you talk about books. So they're all probably coming from your childhood days. So I can link to that. Taking from your childhood, let me talk about your career. You have been in banking, you've been to IT, and you're in consulting. You also was having your own setup in between entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
You had
yeah.
marketing, alliances, leadership development. So the spectrum is so wide. My question is that one, what is one experience that if you can pick up from, if not from all the domains, at least from few domains that actually shaped you or helped you to handle challenges? That will be
Mm,
question number one. Question number two is because when you're changing from one spectrum to one vertical to other vertical, it'll be a challenge. It'll be challenging to gain momentum. So how did you manage to gain momentum? So that's my question to you.
mhm. Okay, that's a good question, Meenakshi. And my path is not something that is has been a traditional one, right? So basically, I come from a perspective where I sort of want to know more, learn more, etc., etc. And in a few ways, uh, a challenge with that was I would very quickly get tired with what I was doing. So I would go and ask, I want to do this, I want to do that. Can I know about this? Can I know about that? And by by and if I have to reflect back, mostly the organizations that I worked in, the people that I worked with, they were encouraging and they would let me, you know, uh, participate in something or move me into another function, role, etc. So those things sort of helped me in the sense that there was that whole ecosystem that was supportive, and of course the fact that I would want to learn new things, do new things, etc. What really coming to the second question that you asked about, how do I ensure momentum in what I did? Uh, what I try to see whenever I move streams or try to do, move into something different is find out what are the most boring parts of that job. Okay.
Okay.
Because you otherwise you generally tend to get carried away by what is glamorous. What is the glamorous part of it? I mean, the moment you say consulting, you'll think, oh, I have to wear suit and ties. I'll go and dazzle people with 4 or 5 words, and they will write check for 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs. Nothing of that sort happens immediately. It takes time, right? And similarly, if you're in leadership development, you think you will go and talk few words, and all the leaders will be floored and their lives will change miraculously just because you spoke something for 2 hours. Nothing of that sort is going to happen. So what I've always focused on, what is the most boring part? What's the most difficult part of it, right? And it is easier to do that because most people don't pay attention to it. And they are happy. Chalo, tum kar lo ye. You go and take care of it. We will focus on what we need to do. And it's those activities that actually teach you what happens behind the scenes and what is tough over there. What are the actual challenges over there? And once you're able to understand that, probably not have solutions for all of that, but once you understand that, you're able to better communicate, you're able to better relate with people. And then slowly you pick your, you're able to connect the dots, pick up the strings, whatever you want to call it.
I think your volume went off in the last.
Yeah. I said that's the important thing for me. What is the boring part of that work?
Yeah. No, the interesting aspect of your response is everyone thinks that boring is tough, but you're saying boring is easy.
Uh, boring is boring is tough because it is inherently boring,
I
right?
mean, rather, you said
Uh,
doing the boring
and,
part is easy.
aha, because there's hardly anybody. You don't have company. You can go and
Yeah.
do the way you
No
want.
competition.
No competition.
Yeah.
If you are lucky enough, you can take the time you want.
Good. Actually, yes, because in especially in the current generation, when every second they want to be engaged, to not be engaged with anything and bore yourself and do some boring job is actually a tough part. But that's where the real growth lies. That's where you really learn and improve. So that was a fantastic point. I like that point. Uh, moving on, actually, you said like when we move from one vertical to other vertical, we talked about momentum. So if I have to ask again, one question which I put earlier is any specific experience that stick, stayed with you, that you think that it can be something that you can share with the audience and to understand for us to learn something. Is there anything that you can think of?
Sure. One specific experience that I want to talk about is towards the fag end of my career, I moved into an individual contributor role. And this was after managing teams of about, 100, 200 size. I moved into an individual contributor role. And so that itself was a sea change for me. Right? And irrespective of whatever fancy stuff you're working on, uh, there is a sense of insecurity. How big is my team? Why is there nobody? Whom do I go and ask anything? That kind of stuff. And that experience sort of, it took a lot of time for me to accept the fact, when the opportunity came up, I didn't want to give it up. I said, yeah, I will adjust. I understand and all that. And I just got into it. But it took me a little while to get adjusted to that. And the second thing that, in that experience I learned is I had to very closely work with the CXOs, CEO, COO, CFO, etc., etc. That experience actually taught me how people in the corner rooms think. How do they think? How do they say what they want? What is it that you should understand? What is it that you should infer? How is it that you should go and talk to them? Because they see things from a particular perspective, whereas others view it from a different perspective. Not that either of them are wrong. So the ability to, sort of what commonly is called flex your thinking based on the audience, that was a fantastic. And I just did this for about 6 to 7 years. That gave me a fantastic insight into, uh, really being able to unlearn. And by then I had worked for about 20 years, 2022, 20, 25 years, to go and unlearn all of that and realign myself to this, that was a phenomenal experience. And that, I think, and of course, again, there were a lot of boring stuff over there because they would want stuff, information in a jiffy, and then you had to reach out to 100 people to get the information, right? So that, I think, was a very, very uh, you know what do you call, really interesting experience, which shaped a lot of the way I did things and I continue to do today.
Maybe I think that really helped you in your current assignment, because
Yeah, every assignment it has helped me, actually, since it has helped in every assignment, because obviously one part is, you work with the C-suite, you see how they do things, what is that process, etc. You also learn on what could have been done better, how can you be a better example for others. It's a mixed bag. End of the day, everybody is a human being, so you learn both experiences, and it has helped me in uh, even when I was in my entrepreneurship stint. Those experiences helped me a lot because I was able to articulate what I wanted to in a way that, the kind of folks I was speaking to could relate to.
good. So you made it as if look as if very simple. You had a team of people working under you, and then you had to handle everything on your own. And you learned definitely, yes. But that change, how long it took actually for you to accept? Because suddenly you don't have anyone coming to you and helping you and doing your work. You have to do it yourself, and sometimes it may be a bit disappointing also. So how do you manage that change? But maybe because I think that there is something that we all can pick up, because most of us are kind of in a state where the change today is pretty fast, and you may have a very secure work today, and suddenly it cannot change, and you may have to learn something and adapt to the situation. So maybe if you can throw some light on how you adapted to the situation, we can probably pick up
Yeah,
one or two points for us to learn.
sure. Meenakshi, I mean, if I have to, again, couple of caveats here. One is I speak from my experience, right? So whatever I say has a context to that in terms of that experience, those circumstances, situations at that particular time. And second thing is applicability as a framework, etc. I really don't know because each situation is different. Maybe if I try the same thing today, it may not work. I really don't know. But I think two or three things was first is, as you mentioned, acceptance, right? I mean, you're an individual contributor or an individual contributor. There's no two ways about it. So that's the first thing, accepting it. Second is, how do you align with all the key stakeholders that you would be working with? That's extremely crucial because that can suddenly change. Somebody whom you do not really get along with and try to avoid in the elevator could be the person you have to deal with every day, right? So how do you align with them? Okay. That's the second thing, acceptance, alignment. And the third thing probably is, you know, having complete clarity on what is it that is expected from you in terms of goals, in terms of outputs, outcomes. Because when the kind of role that I was in, which involved almost anything and everything, working on the C-suite with almost anything and everything, it was difficult to sort of articulate the goals. And when I started off, the initial thing was, "ठीक है, देख लेंगे, चलो, you come first, it is good, it is exciting, you will learn," and all that kind of stuff. Now, that kind of enthusiasm can carry you a little bit, along the journey. But finally, if you have to articulate what is it that you have done, where is the value that you have added, then there's very little to say. It becomes only talking of the activities that you have done. So that's when probably 3 to 5 months into my assignment, I actually go and tell my boss, but let's sort of discuss the goals. What is it that you actually want me to drive? Not in terms of activities, but in terms of results, outcomes, etc. I think the sooner we get down to that, the better. Uh, in this case, nothing was concrete. Okay. In cases where one is moving into a role and such goals already exist, even then, I think this point is important because one needs to understand those goals. Because you are coming new into the role, it's a new domain, a new function for you. You may not understand all the dynamics. You may sign up for something that you have no clue about. And you probably may be compared by with somebody who has spent 10 years in the function, has done an excellent work and moved on, right? So those dynamics are also there. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so accept, align, and get clarity. That's what
Okay.
the 3 points that you have
Yeah.
mentioned. Thank you. Now you you're a great writer, prolific writer actually, and I really like your articles in LinkedIn. And it's varied actually. Subjects are you talk about human behavior, you talk about AI and finance. That's a topic that you are now focusing on, and you write on that also. And recently, I read one of your posts about Chinese opera, and
Mhm.
the way the roles are defined in that, and how it impact, how it's applicable to us. That was, my question to you is that one, how do you find topics and materials for your articles? So that's the first question. So once you answer, then I will go to the next question.
Okay. Okay. So basically, going back to what I said, Meenakshi, I mean, reading, writing, and all have always been passions. So I can almost read anything and everything, right from the most mundane news to probably the most, complex of topics. And that's how I'm able to sort of get material, right? And what I assiduously do is the moment I read something, I sort of write it down. So I have a notebook full of ideas, at least thoughts, right? And then as you keep thinking, as you keep noticing things, I try to see what is it that you can correlate with something over here. And that's how that, amalgamation becomes slightly easy. Like this opera stuff, I think I had read about 2, 3 months back, right? I had jotted it down and I said, okay, we'll use it sometime whenever there is something relevant that I think will click. Because one thing I have learned over the years is the moment you read something, interesting like this, there is an urge to share that. Now, if it's share about Chinese opera as it is fine. But how many people will read it? How interesting is it? How relevant is it? There were many times earlier when I would read something interesting and try to force fit it and then put it out. And probably a day or two after I have written and read it myself, I said, "But this doesn't look nice because I've just forced something." So today okay, I'll step back. It comes after 2 months, so be it. So that writing down has actually helped me. I mean, I actually write down with a pen and paper.
Pen.
That's
Yeah.
yeah.
That they say once you start writing, actually, it connects to your brain much faster than typing it out
Hmm.
or probably jotting it in your mobile phone. Not sure, but there is a research on that actually. The
Yeah.
second point is in the second question in that direction is how do you find time?
So, see, once you are clear what topic you want to choose, how do you want to sort of structure the topic, what is the connector, etc., etc., then it sort of becomes easier. You work backwards. You know what's the final message you want to give. What's so the message. So if I go back to, if I have to go back to the Toastmaster parlance, you have the context, you have the connect, as in what will be the connector, right? And then it's a question of just being able to find time to actually write it. And again, it need not be, I'm not a one sitting writing and all that. Even if it takes 2, 3 sittings, it is okay. So the thing is, I'm working on 4 or 5 things simultaneously. Whatever gets done, I put it out.
Okay, so
So
you keep working on things. Patience pays
things,
actually. Yeah.
yeah,
And one particular character I see you use frequently in your writings is Chubul Pandey.
yeah, yeah.
Why?
I find that character, uh, it's a very complex character. Okay. And it's a very, I think it's among the extremely well written characters in Hindi cinema, given the general quality of Hindi cinema over the years. Um, it has many shades that, probably I can relate to, or people in general can relate to, because those posts invariably do well, right? And probably somewhere there is also, that, what do you call that? Probably there is also that one bit of element where, somewhere the character is so brazen about what he wants to do. Maybe there is some hidden thing in me that, maybe I want to be like this and I could get away with it.
So the desire.
Yeah, probably that finds, some sort of an outlet by writing about him always.
Yeah, good, good. I like that. I mean, Salman Khan is very interesting way he portrays characters, but Chul Pandey is one. Just got some kind of wackiness in it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about writing. So is there a book that's coming sometime or?
See, honestly, Meenakshi, this writing a book and all has been going around for a long time. Okay. I've been thinking about it for a long time. Okay. I, in fact, even shortlisted the topic, etc. A couple of people in the publishing space I spoke to, and I gave them a synopsis of what I will write, etc. They also said, "But this looks nice, and we'll work on it and all that." But honestly, things haven't progressed after that, right? And if you ask me the reason why that has not happened, I'm not able to pinpoint a reason. Probably somewhere I'm not so convinced about the topic that I actually take time to write, I carve out time to write about it every day. Or maybe the idea itself still lacks some that extra, that salt, that 3% is not there in that, right? So I'm not able to push myself. And sometimes I also uh, go back to one intrinsic uh, nature of mine. Once I write something, I don't go back to it. Done, it's done. A book can't be written that way. You have to
Yeah,
keep
you have to
revisiting
go
it
through it
again.
multiple times.
You have to go back to it again. Probably that mindset is also somewhere, while I can look at it with a sense of pride that I do go back, I move on, etc., etc. Probably it's becoming a hurdle, but yes, it's something I really want to do. Let's see how it goes.
I hope to see something in the near future. Now that we have almost come to the end of the discussion, I thought with all the AI and what's happening around the world, if you have to give one advice to Gen Zs like me.
So the moment you said Gen Z is like you, that puts me at, makes me look like some 95. Okay. It was nice. It was nicely done, Meenakshi. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, what advice uh, can one really give? Because today, whatever is happening in AI, changes in technology, etc., they are generation agnostic. Everybody is feeling the impact of it. Earlier, it was not like that. I could, once I retired, I mean, take my father's case. Once he retired from his government job, what happened in the corporate world or anything had no relevance to him.
Correct.
Today, it's not that way. So it's generation agnostic. It also impacts almost every sphere of your life, irrespective of
Yeah.
the age that you are in. Today, they're talking of AI for health, AI for wellness for elders, AI for security for elders, and then you have AI. How can it help infants and the entire whole 9 yards. I don't know, probably the way AI is shaping up, the only thing I probably think might make sense for us to keep in mind is how do we make sure that the judgment we have around something doesn't get diminished because of technology, because of AI? Uh, because it's easier, it's faster. How do we not lose our judgment to something that, we ought to be very consciously paying attention? That is something I think.
Yeah, you're right, actually, because the judgment comes from a deep understanding of subject. And today, everything is given to you on a platter. You can just type out and get the thing. The challenge of
Yeah.
understanding something deeper is going to be a challenge.
Yeah. And then you read so much about AI hallucinating, giving whatever it wants. Uh, there was 2, 3 days back, there was this write up about one of the biggest, one among the consulting firms uh, being, spoken about because they used case studies that AI produced in their output. All of it were fictional.
Wow.
Nothing was real. 2, 3 days back, I wrote about, you spoke about AI in finance, where some lady deliberately created some false disease and spoke about it, and they set it out in the AI space,
Oh,
and
okay.
everything picked it up, and there were research citations. People started imagining they had those symptoms.
Oh,
So it's scary. How do you keep your uh, judgment intact? Is probably something that all of us need to pay attention to or be cognizant of always.
yeah. Not believing everything that's coming also, that's another challenge.
Yeah, yeah. That
Thank you,
that is.
sir.
Thank you so much,
And
Meenakshi.
thanks for your time. And that's Sri Ram Kumar for you all. We'll open up for any questions.